All right, guys, so in a really weird kind of mommy and daddy please quit fighting moment, it looks like Strava and Garmin are both heading towards a divorce. Yes, there's a lawsuit, and this is what you need to know. Let's get at it. All right, guys, so where'd this start? For a long time, Garmin and Strava have both been working really well together because they pretty much complemented each other's offerings. Garmin had incredible GPS devices, and Strava had the software that could do heat map segments and other aspects of ride tracking that really mated well with Garmin hardware. And back in 2015, they actually signed an MCA that allowed Garmin to use those heat maps and segments on their devices directly. So it made for a partnership that seemed to work really well between the two companies. Where Strava is saying that Garmin's really overstepping at this point is the fact that Garmin is starting to introduce features into their software that look a lot like these features from Strava. So on September 30th of this year, Strava actually entered into a lawsuit with Garmin over this dispute. So what does it include? So the first part is patent infringement. Strava says that Garmin has copied or used without permission features covering segments and heat maps or popularity routing on their actual software. They also say this is a breach of the 2015 MCA. Strava claims that Garmin exceeded what they were allowed to do under that cooperation agreement. Example, building Garmin branded segments using leaderboards outside of Strava's ecosystem. And then lastly, it's obviously some kind of action, which is an injunction demand. Strava isn't asking for compensation. They're demanding that Garmin stop selling devices and features that infringe on those patents. So the basic nuts and bolts of the lawsuit is that Strava is saying that Garmin used the leverage they have with Strava and the information they have about Strava software to start implementing those features into their own. So what really probably sparked this the most for Strava, and the reason they feel to get legal involved now, is back in July of 2025, Garmin released a new update to their API. And what was in this update? It was a requirement that if you were going to upload any pictures, data, or anything else that was recorded with the Garmin device, the Garmin logo had to be featured in that sharing of that ride. So that means any of your segments, any of the pictures that you share of the screenshots of your ride, if it was a Garmin device that recorded that, whether it be on Strava or anywhere else, the Garmin logo had to be included. And as part of this leverage by Garmin, they actually threatened to cut off API access to any of their partners that did not include this stipulation by November 1st. So Strava at this time thought it would degrade the user experience and their branding if that had to be included. So it's not just about patents, it's also about who owns your ride data and how that is branded. So while they're trying to figure this out on the legal system, where do we sit right now as of mid-October 2025? First off, Strava said it will not impede its users from using Garmin devices at this point in time. So that means if you're still riding with a Garmin device on your bike or during your run or any other activity, everything should operate per usual. And that said, Strava is not the only one that is suing Garmin, which is increasing their legal exposure on this area. There are other brands that are either actively starting their own lawsuit or looking to join as well. So that's something we're gonna have to watch in the near future to see how much leverage they actually have against Garmin in this legal case. And then lastly, Strava is actually looking to release an IPO, which might talk to some of the aggressive stance they're taking on this currently. Because if Garmin's able to implement a lot of these features, it could devalue the release as they see it now. So what does this mean for you as the rider? First, as of right now, nothing is really changing. You might see a little bit of branding to actually comply with the API request from Garmin, but overall your data with Strava or Garmin is going to remain largely unchanged. Now, obviously, if Strava wins this argument, you might see some of these features that if you're a pure Garmin user actually start to go away. They might be able to get rid of some of the heat maps and segments that Garmin's currently setting up, as Strava will be able to say that through the court injunction, that is in violation of the ruling. As far as buying decisions go on what devices you want to get at this point in time, it might be good to just wait 30 to 60 days. There aren't a lot of big releases here coming in the coming months, and if you have a Garmin device right now, it is currently working. So if you're looking to make a financial upgrade or your first buy, it might be better off to buy maybe a cheaper version or just keep with what you have for a little while to see how this shakes out. Now, the sad part of this is that this might be a little bit of soiled waters. I've really enjoyed Strava over the years, and I've always used it with Garmin devices. I found that the two really paired well together. I remember when Strava first came out, I actually did switch from the Garmin software to Strava because it was more of a social platform where Garmin during that time was more just data collection. So I love to use the Garmin devices with Strava to do the segments, heat maps, converse with friends, add photos, everything that you use Strava for now. But we might be in a situation here with the way that Garmin has leveraged into the software environment and the way Strava is at now kicking back, that it might create a relationship that they're not as willing to work together in the future. So we might see the feature set for Strava on Garmin devices degrade over time, as they now see each other as adversaries more as partnerships. So guys, I will leave an explanation of the lawsuit and a more descriptive version down in the description below if you are interested in reading into some of the details, but that is the nuts and bolts of what is going on here. Strava and Garmin have been working really well together to provide a complete user experience for riders, runners, and other activities. Then over time, like most companies, Garmin kind of looked into how do I implement more of these features into my own software that's really started to infringe on what Strava had implemented and really kind of pioneered in the past. So now you have two companies arguing over who actually owns that IP and that technology when they really came from completely separate sides of the spectrum. Strava was a software company that innovated on the social side. Garmin was a hardware company that happened to have software, and now we're clashing in the middle. And really at the end of the day where I see this going, it's probably only going to hurt the customer base as they are going to have to figure this out on their own. And it obviously looks like it might be an irreparable partnership at this point in time. So guys, I want to hear what you think down in the comment section below. Do you use Strava, Garmin devices? What do you see happening in the future? I want to hear your thoughts. And until then, on to the next one. Thanks guys, see ya.